Hi and good morning to this crypto walk and talk. I just saw that BlackRock bought even more Ethereum. They bought 29,000 Ethereum, I guess, for the ETF. It's around 77 million. So this is strange that now all these big players are going heavily again into Ethereum. As we discussed yesterday in the walk and talk, this was already promised, so to say, by parts of the Trump family. Also, the Ethereum ETF flows have been picking up, but now it's really ramping up. This seems to be a very good sign for Ethereum. And as discussed yesterday in the walk and talk, I believe that we have a good chance for Ethereum outperform most of the assets. In today's video, I want to talk about a little more basic things. Still, it seems to me a lot of people did not understand or don't understand what money is basically and why it is important to own Bitcoin or to own an asset that is not inflating. This will be the main topic of today's video. First of all, you need to understand that if you earn money in fiat money can be dollars or euros or whatever it is. It's the money that the government is printing, and this money is not backed by anything. That means that basically it is an illusion that this money has got any value. It's just because all the people have been told that this money has got value, and this is why we are accepting it. But you work every day, you work hard every day, and in exchange for your time, you get this fiat money. You need to pay all your taxes, you need to pay Social Security. Then if you go somewhere, you need to pay VAT and all this other crazy stuff, as you know. But the worst thing is that your money is automatically devaluing. So there's the inflation, and inflation, you could say, is somehow a hidden tax. Politicians don't put it out there. Regular people don't know what inflation is and how bad it actually is. Why are they doing this in this way? Because it's very easy for them. It has many purposes. First of all, the purpose is that they can just print money and use the money, give the money to their closest friends and distribute the money. But also a politician, if he would say he's implementing a new tax and this will tax you or this will take away at least 10% or 14% of your purchasing power, or it's like a taxation, but the problem with the inflation is that it is getting higher and higher every year. So this is like they would make a tax that will take away at least 10% of your money every year. This is the bad thing. On the other side, if your income would rise to, so you get 10% more or 15% more a year, this would not be as much as a problem. But who gets 10% more each year? So this does not happen. We have discussed in the video yesterday also that even the S&P, if you invested in the S&P, you're just breaking even. In my opinion, the regular inflation is not the numbers that they are telling us. The regular inflation is at least around between 10 and 15%, probably around 13, 14%. And the S&P 500 is just breaking this level. So you're just even. If you put your money in the S&P, you're just even. You're not making any money, but you're also not losing any money. Of course, this depends on your situation. This is just theoretically. This would basically mean that you have all your money in the S&P, but just a portion of your money that you have in the S&P will not be impacted. The Nasdaq, you're performing a little better, you make a little profit. For gold, in most of the years, you're also losing a little of your money. Overall, over many, many years, you can still keep your value, but Bitcoin, you make around 60% every year on average. We have also discussed this in another video. Tell me a company where you make 60% every year. That's not possible. So this is why it's such a great asset. But what I want to tell you is you need to understand what money is. So money, you store your time and energy. You go to work every day, you work very hard, and then in exchange for that, they give you this fiat money. So your dollars, your euros, and they devalue, as we have learned now. So you need to find an asset that does not devalue. Otherwise, they are robbing you out of your wealth. This is important to understand. And because Bitcoin is the best performing asset and protecting you the most, and it has got many more advantages to gold. It's very hard to carry gold around. We live in quite uncertain times. If it happens that you need to leave the country with your family, then you cannot really have loads of gold. A friend of mine told me that his family was actually very wealthy in, I think it was in Syria, and they had to leave, his grandparents had to leave many, many years ago. And of course, they wanted to take all their gold because this was why they have been wealthy. They stored gold, they had a lot of gold, but they could not cross the border with the gold. They took away the gold, and then they arrived in the new country. They didn't have any wealth anymore. It was a clever idea to store it in gold at this time, but now times have changed. I'm not against gold, but you should at least have some Bitcoin. Whatever happens, you need to relocate, for example, you can take it with you. Nobody can take it from you. You can store the seed phrases in your head. You don't even need a Bitcoin wallet. You need just these words, and you can recover it from every point in the world. You can recover it in a software wallet. You can recover it on a hardware wallet. So you're really free to do that. It's important for you to understand this. So how do you get started? This also seems to be a question many times asked in my community. Now that the price of Bitcoin is so high already, it's over 100,000. For lots of people, they think, they look at the price and say, I can't buy this anymore. It's so much. Or they may understand that they can actually just buy Satoshis. So the Satoshis are the smaller parts of a Bitcoin, so to say. You don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy simple Satoshis. It's called stacking Satoshis. This is what I would recommend to do. Just set up an automation. All these modern wallets like a Revolut wallet or these EMI bank providers, these modern banks, have the opportunity to at least buy every week or every month. So you should do that. You should just automate it and buy a little every time. Also, if you get a salary, if you receive any other kind of money, just take away 5%, 10% of the money and always put it automatically in an asset that will hold the value. This is very important. So you don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy Satoshis and it will go up and up and up. And maybe you will manage to have a whole Bitcoin at one point. And very likely this one Bitcoin or whatever Satoshis you buy are worth much, much more than at the price you bought it. I mentioned before, at the moment, over the last period of time, it is around 60%, or we can calculate with 50%. That means if you manage to buy like $10,000 of Bitcoin, Satoshis, So the value of $10,000 in Satoshis, let's say, this will be in the next year 15,000 because it's increasing by 50. This is not always a clear metric. In some years you will lose money, in other years you will gain more. We will see how the market cycle develops now. As we see so much money flowing into the system, so much money flowing into the bigger players, I'm not sure if we will have a regular halving cycle or regular investment cycle. Normally, the cycle should be over at the end of the year, beginning of next year. All the time when there is a halving, the halving cycle gets into play. And we are now basically in the last part of the halving cycle. Maybe we have some more months. So we have June now, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. We have at least 6 months, 6 to 8 months for the price now to go up. Now is the time for the banana zone, as many people call it. The price should now really go up. This is Bitcoin. What about other assets? Should you go and buy other crypto assets? Depends really on the amount of money you have. Depends on how much risk you're willing to take. It depends when you need the money as well. Let's do some examples. If you really want to become wealthy, the only or the best way to do it more safe is to concentrate on one asset. So if you want to play it safe and have time, have a longer time horizon, it's clearly Bitcoin you need to buy. You just buy Bitcoin every day, every month, every week, and you do not sell it. You just leave it there. Never touch it. Make sure you're not touching it even if you need some money. Just leave it there and it will compound. Our human brain has got a lot of problems in really understanding this compounding mechanisms. But just calculate it for yourself. If you have 10,000, then the next year you have 15,000. Then you have the next, and then at a certain time, it really explodes. The values explode, and you are in the 100,000s, and at a certain point in millions. Because if you have reached 500,000, then it's 750,000, and then you're reaching over 1 million already in the next year. It goes very fast. This is if you want to build up wealth for a longer period of time and also be safe and don't have to worry too much. Why should you just buy one asset and not split it up, diversify? Diversifying is basically just a good idea if you already have money. Why? So just imagine you have, let's say, $10,000 and you're buying 10 coins. Let's say you buy 1,000 euros of Bitcoin. You buy also Ethereum because it's safe. Maybe you also buy Solana. But then you go into, let's say, also Sui, and then you buy some meme coins. You buy Pepe, and you buy Dogecoin, and you buy Fiatcoin, and all this stuff. What is very likely to happen is that some of them will perform very well. Let's take an example of the last cycle now, or over the last month. Just the coins I mentioned. Let's take Bitcoin. So Bitcoin performed very well and outperformed most of the assets. Ethereum performed very poorly. So this would almost cancel each other out because Ethereum was, let's assume you bought Ethereum over 3,000 because it fell quite heavily. So it underperformed very much. Bitcoin really performed very well. Then you have Solana. Solana depends when you bought it and when you sold it, or if you still hold it and you bought it when it was much higher then it's also, it also probably taking away from your profits. SUI would be beneficial for you. All these meme coins have been falling heavily. That means that even you made good profits, let's say with Bitcoin and SUI, you are, if you're lucky, break even. All the other meme coins, all the other assets that have been going down, took basically away the profits of your other coins. This is why you should pick a safe coin, the safest coin. I don't think we will have any issues with the value of Bitcoin for at least 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, that it will go up no matter what. It's not like a company like BlackRock will come into the market, get all their investors in the market. They have the trust of all their investors. So they cannot go so heavily into an asset and then tell their investors, oh, sorry, it just fell 60%. So this is the one strategy. If you're very young and you have a bunch of money laying around, but you don't really care if it's going away, if you win, if you lose, you see it as gamble, then it could be a good idea that you go into a more risky play. Then you should really dig deep into all these meme coins, into the new AI coins, and find out what is probably the next asset that will skyrocket. Then you have the opportunity to make thousands or hundreds of percentage if you know what you're doing. But it's very risky. If you put your, let's say, $1,000 or $5,000 into one coin, you need to understand how the market is functioning. You need to be in these groups. You need to be in the Telegram. You need to know everything about the project. If you don't know this, you're probably just a retail investor that will be last. So you're still standing and all the chairs are gone already. If you know this game where the music is on, you walk around the chairs and you need to find a chair when the music stops. You need to be really deep in the trenches to play this game. And then you can profit quite well, but it's very stressful. And you need to set up a strategy for yourself to get out of the asset. This is very important. For every investor, this is very important. Doesn't matter if you are in a meme coin or you're investing longer term, you need to define a point where you at least sell a portion of your assets. A good strategy is if you set a percentage for yourself, that could be if you're up 100%, it's quite a crazy number, but in crypto, it's not that crazy, as you know. If you're up 100%, you at least sell the initial investment. What that means is, let's say you bought one of this crazy fiat coin or whatever, using $10,000. Fiat coin goes up to and doubles basically. Then you sell $1,000 of fiat coin. So you cannot lose anything anymore. You have already put in or taken out what you put in. So you can just win from this point. And the other assets or the other coins that you bought, you try to manage as good as possible. So this is a good way. If you are a more educated investor, if you are more investing long time, a good idea for you is to rebalance your portfolio sometimes. So as soon you manage to accumulate some wealth, you should slowly try to diversify. In crypto, I would not recommend to diversify too much. What I mean by that is most crypto investors, most bigger crypto investors investing long term still have around 80% of their assets in Bitcoin. This keeps them safe, especially over the latest months. This was a very good strategy as not many coins have been performing. But it's like in the stock market. If you would have been invested in the stock market 10 years ago, some of these stocks, or most of the stocks, if we come to technology, are not performing very well, and some of them are not even there anymore. So you need to watch your assets. You need to ask yourself the question, Ethereum, for example, is this still fulfilling any purpose? Is there a better asset around that will replace Ethereum? Is this maybe Solana or other questions? You need to know quite a lot about it. The case of Ethereum, this would be good questions technically, but also good questions would be, is it attractive for investors? Meaning, if now the staking ETFs get approved for Ethereum, this will be very attractive for big institutions because it's giving you dividends, so to say. So I see a very big use case for Ethereum. Still, most of the apps, most of the stuff is developed on Ethereum. They have a big community. Never underestimate the community. The community is important because you could just copy every blockchain. So the blockchains, most of the code is open source. So you could go ahead and fork Bitcoin. You can go to GitHub. If you have a GitHub account, just fork Bitcoin. And then you have the technology, exactly the same technology than the Bitcoin network is using. But you don't have any miners. You don't have any nodes. You don't have any customers or network. You don't have any people who believe in your project. And this is the main thing. The same would be if you just have the code of Facebook. You duplicate Facebook, you duplicate TikTok. What will happen? Nobody would care. Even if you make it a little nicer, a little faster, a little whatever, nobody would use it because you don't have the reach, you don't have the network. This is why it's so important to understand the network. And Ethereum has got the network. The people are very important, the developers, the users, the projects building on it. So it's likely that Solana is taking more and more share away from Ethereum. But still, it has its purpose, I would say. For Solana, Solana is very heavily going into the digitalization and the bringing other assets onto the blockchain. So they are working very heavily on bringing basically the stock market to on-chain. That means that very soon we will see the entire stock market being on-chain trading 24/7, and very likely Solana will play a part of that. So what I would suggest is you have a very safe bag, you have a holding of, let's say, 80% Bitcoin, and then you have maybe, let's say, 15% or in between place. That would be Solana, could be Solana, Ethereum, could be Sui, could be Pendle, could be Ethena, all these projects that are now coming up and getting more and more attractive and having really good use cases. Don't forget that. And then still you can poker and play around with maybe 5% of your assets, depending on your risk, right? You can also play around with 10% of your assets, but always keep in mind you can lose them. It's like a casino. This is what I would recommend to do if you're in this situation. How should we keep these assets is then the next point. So to keep assets in crypto very safe, you need to have a hardware wallet. Do not leave your assets on exchanges. It's the same as a bank account. It can happen to you that your funds get locked. All the information is transmitted to the governments, as you know, and maybe there's a point in time where they will just block your account, take it away, implement some strange kind of unrealized capital gains tax like they plan now to do in Australia, some crazy stuff like that. Hackers can come in and so on. So you need to make sure that your safe parts, or let's say this 80% of your assets, that you hold them safely. So you need to have some kind of hardware wallet where you store your keys. I don't want to go into much details in this video, but there's many setup opportunities. So you can buy a ledger, you can buy a treasure, a cold card, a lot of hardware wallets that you can use. And there's more advanced things that you can do. You can set up a Shamir backup, for example. That means you can split up your seed phrases. So you could have a setup that is you generate 10 seed phrases, but you just need 5 to recover your assets. That means that you can actually put them in different locations and never really have access to all of the seed phrases to keep you safe. So if you really want to access this wallet, you need to travel somewhere, or you need to call 2 or 3 people to get all the assets. You need to set it up in a way that it is safe, and you know, if one person is not reachable anymore, or if something happens, you still have access to your assets. If it's small amounts, you can keep them in software wallets like a Exodus wallet or MetaMask and so on. But keep in mind, at least in Europe, from next year on, it will dramatically change. So we have to KYC in Europe from next year, January next year on. There's new laws coming out, even with this non-custodial wallets. Exodus is in August this year delisting Monero. So there's another fight against privacy coins. Keep that in mind if you are investing in privacy coins. Many of you probably have Monero or other privacy coins. And in this case, in your investment strategy, it is important for you to understand that this could be an issue. The EU is banning privacy coins in 2027, and a lot of exchanges will get a lot of pressure. There's almost no exchanges anymore that you can use it, but the problem is also now non-custodial wallets are delisting these assets. So it will be soon very hard to send it around or to keep the value if you cannot really use it anymore. If you can just use it person to person, it's probably a problem for the value. Other assets like Telegram or something could also be a risk factor. We have seen that they tried to crack down on TikTok. We have seen that Pavel Durov was actually arrested when he flew with his private jet to Paris. They wanted to get the encryption from him. His brother did the encryption, so they have now some kind of deal where he's probably giving some data to the government. And we have recently just seen that Grok, so Elon Musk, is having a cooperation with Telegram, and they're implementing the Grok or the XAI into Telegram. And what does that mean? This means, of course, that all the data is now floating to the US government. When you have the AI integrated in Telegram, then the AI, of course, knows everything. What I want to say by that is that it can be a risk also to be invested in these portals. If they try to shut down Telegram, if they try to block it in a certain way or whatever, then it can be a risk for your investments. And this is true for a lot of fields. Unfortunately, you also have to think about hackers. The CETAs exchange, the DEX of SUI, the main decentralized exchange of SUI, was just hacked some weeks ago. And this let the price actually drop quite well. They managed to somehow freeze most of the assets, so not much happened, but they're losing trust. They had a bug in the code. This was not good for the asset. Also for SUI, SUI was up to around $4, and then it dropped to almost $3 back because of this hack in the ecosystem. So with your assets, you have to be very careful. Like we mentioned, you can keep it in non-custodial wallets if it's smaller. You can also keep a little on exchanges if you trade with it. But I would not keep it there all the time. Trade with the assets and then withdraw it if you can, if it's bigger amounts. If it's big amounts for you, it depends all the time, right? Some amounts may be big for you, but for other people, they will not be that big. If this is a lot of money for you, make sure you take over control. Never store your seed phrases online. Make sure you have backups. Best is to buy the steel plates where you can engrave it or have the letters already, where you can really store your seed phrases very safely, even if there is a fire or whatever happens in nature. You are protected. You can still read them. If you put it on a piece of paper, you will not be able to read it after a flooding or, of course, after fire. Your paper is logically gone. So that was all I wanted to talk about today. Start buying Bitcoin Satoshis today if you don't have any. You will thank me in some years. So I hope that was useful. I see you in my video tomorrow. I will do another video later today. I'm not sure about the topic now. I have to do some research. So thanks for watching and bye-bye. See you.